Marvel is about to get much darker with their upcoming horror special, Werewolf by Night. We heard about the project last year, and we're finally blessed with a great trailer for the upcoming comic book horror movie at Disney's D23 Expo. And by the looks of it, Marvel is finally getting in touch with its dark side. So sit back and relax as we dive deep to explain everything about Werewolf by Night. Let's start off with introducing the Werewolf by Night. Werewolf by Night is Marvel's answer to the classic slasher monster movie, and it's about, well, a werewolf. By the looks of the trailer, the upcoming feature seems to be inspired by 1940s horror classics like An American Werewolf in London, Dog Soldiers, and even The Wolfman. The story follows Jack Russell, whose ancestors turned into werewolves after accidentally running into Dracula, and a werewolf he had locked up in his castle in Transylvania. It's an old tale about a man who gets bitten by a werewolf, which turns him into one. And yes, Dracula does appear in Marvel Comics. As for the film, Werewolf by Night is a black and white horror flick with Gael Garcia Bernal in the lead role, and fans of old-school horror movies will definitely love it. During the D23 panel, Marvel boss Kevin Feige called the project fun scary and compared it to the classic 1980s horror movie Poltergeist. Michael Giacchino, who's written music for several MCU movies and is also the director of Werewolf by Night, stated that the movie has the right level of scares. Boy, we're super hyped up. Next up, seems like Jack Russell is simply born with a curse. Rumor has it that after the Werewolf by Night reboot in 2020, there will also be two versions of the show. But luckily, the upcoming Halloween special is said to feature the original version of Jack Russell. A good choice, we must add, since it's clear that the movie is based on old horror movie tropes. As for Jack's curse, he's a dangerous man because he has lycanthropy. He often can't control his wild werewolf alter ego when he turns into one for 3 days every time there's a full moon. But even though it has a Marvel twist, it's exactly what we'd expect from a werewolf story. Also, side note, in the comics, the character has eventually fought Spider-Man, some of the Avengers, and joined the Midnight Suns, but he's still not classified as a superhero. Instead, he's like a comic book version of a sad old story that's been around for a while now, followed by his comic book origins. Werewolf by Night was first published in 1972 in Marvel Spotlight number 2, which is a collection of short comic book anthology series. Jack's story begins when he turns into a werewolf on his 18th birthday and realizes that he has special powers. Truly a coming-of-age story with a scary twist. After a car accident, Laura, Jack's mother, tells him everything as she's taking her last breaths. She tells him a story that happened 20 years ago when she was a student traveling in Transylvania, where she met Baron Rusoff and fell in love with him. And it turns out that Baron was a werewolf. But even with Baron being a werewolf, it didn't stop Laura from having 2 kids with him because he was a werewolf, duh. And even though Jack lives in Los Angeles, it turns out that he has a Transylvanian origin. As for Jack, he inherited his father's ability to turn into a werewolf, but it didn't show up until he was 18. He relentlessly spends months trying to find a cure for his werewolf condition so that his sister, Lissa, won't have to go through the same thing. But unfortunately, he fails, and then spends some time as a traveler, where he learns more about his past while struggling to deal with his changes. Also, Werewolf by Night's past has become even more connected to that of other characters in the Marvel Universe, as it turns out that Jack's ancestors were the ones who found the pages of the Darkhold. That's some freaky business right there. Coming up next, the werewolf's powers and abilities. Before he turned 18, Jack was just like any other kid, but once his lycan powers kicked in, even he was in human form. He had a better sense of smell than most people. But here's the thing, Jack really shines when he's a werewolf, as he transforms into a huge 7-foot-tall beast with superhuman strength, speed, stamina, agility, and senses. This also makes him very tough and gives him a fast healing factor that lets him shrug off wounds that would kill a human instantly. And like most werewolves, his teeth and claws are so sharp they can cut through flesh, bone, and even some metals. Sadly, when he turns into a beast, he often loses his human intelligence and acts like a wild animal. But over the years, Jack has learned to control his werewolf side by using magical items and hard work to master his transformation. Also, at different times in the comics, Jack has learned how to turn into a werewolf whenever he wants to. This comes in super handy when fighting superpowered enemies. Is that a She-Hulk reference? Adding to his abilities, Jack has also learned more about other monsters and traditional ways of doing things as he looked into his family history while trying to find a cure. But one thing that makes him similar to a typical werewolf is that his only weakness is silver, and like other werewolves, he can be killed by a silver bullet or even a shot to the heart. Now, let's look at where the werewolf fits in all the other heroes. Obviously, Jack has seen his fair share of superheroes while working together with them. If that weren't the case, he wouldn't be a Marvel character. He's met heroes like Iron Man and Spider-Woman, among many others. But his first important team-up was in Marvel Team-Up Volume 1, number 12, which came out in 1973, just a year after his first appearance. In this volume, Werewolf by Night meets Spider-Man to take on the sorcerer Moondark, who hypnotizes Jack and teleports him to the Golden Gate Bridge to fight the Webhead. The two take care of the magician quickly, and their superpowers make it possible for more crossovers to happen in the future. Werewolf by Night has also teamed up with other Marvel characters like Frankenstein's monster, yes, he exists in the Marvel Universe, Ghost Rider, Man-Thing, and even Morbius, the living vampire. In fact, we can see a glimpse of the Man-Thing in the trailer for Werewolf by Night, which will definitely please Marvel horror fans who can't wait to see more of these monsters brought to life. Also, during the Marvel Zombies series, he worked with Hailstorm, Jennifer Kale, and Man-Thing as part of Dr. Michael Morbius's version of the supernatural team Midnight Suns. It's Morbin time! Moving on to Werewolf by Night, continuing MCU's descent into horror. It all started with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which was directed by the legendary horror director Sam Raimi. Raimi is most commonly known for directing the Spider-Man trilogy, Tobey Maguire's trilogy to be clear, and the iconic Evil Dead films, which used a lot of standard horror tropes. We saw a zombified Doctor Strange, the eldritch horror of Gargantos, and the Scarlet Witch giving us a jump scare that surely would have made the Ring proud. As we mentioned before, Wanda Maximoff seems to have something to do with how the Werewolf by Night came to be. The ancestors of Jack Russell patched up the Darkhold, which is an ancient book that turns Wanda into the Scarlet Witch and lets her use the dark magic it holds. Whether this part is explored on-screen or not, comic book fans will be delighted to get the reference. Then there's that brief appearance of Man-Thing in the trailer for Werewolf by Night, which we might have missed if we didn't pay attention. Man-Thing follows the story of a young biochemist who's forced to inject himself with an experimental serum that turns him into a creature with land-like appearance. Oh, so just like DC's Swamp Thing? And guess what? Man-Thing also lives in swamps and moves slowly. Finally, MCU's upcoming horror-themed projects. With the upcoming release of Blade, it finally looks like Marvel is finally embracing its darker, horror-inspired characters. This might also create a new branch of the MCU we haven't seen before, full of dark magic and gothic influences. Also, we noticed that it's kind of ironic that DC has had such a hard time getting its Justice League dark to the big screen for so long, especially since Marvel seems to have embraced the campiness of its old monsters. When will DC get their way? As for Werewolf by Night, which is a clear step in new territory, Giacchino is perfectly using the Marvel Universe to make a black and white horror movie from the 1930s. And as the monster hunters in the movie get together to get rid of the monster among them, we have to wonder if Werewolf by Night or Man-Thing will show up in the rest of the MCU continuity. That's all for this video. Are you excited for the upcoming classic horror project by Marvel? Do you want to see the Werewolf by Night team up with MCU heroes in the future? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content in the future. Thanks for watching and see you next time.